Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com.
Cleaning clothing from dust and dirt on Shabbos. You're walking with your beautiful black skirt, dress, kapata, pants, lekavet Shabbos Kodesh, on the day of Shabbos or Friday night, and you notice some annoying dust on the garment. We will now explore whether this dust may be shaken off, brushed off, removed, using one's hands or using a brush. Is brushing dirt or dust off clothing a prohibited act on Shabbos, or is it permitted to be done? So before we begin our discussion, we must first clarify that the entire discussion here onwards is only with regards to a dry cleaning using your hands or a dry brush, not regarding placing a liquid such as water on your clothing to clean it, which touches upon the severe biblical laundering prohibition. Likewise, from what we will explain, one cannot deduce the final rulings regarding if one may shake a garment off from water that spilled on it or raindrops that have fallen on it, which is a discussion in and of its own. So our discussion here onwards is limited specific to the case we mentioned. There is dust on your garment, you want to brush it off with your hand or brush. So it all begins with the Gemara Masechah Shabbos, Daf Kuf Mem Zayin Amud Aleph. Amar Ravuna stated, Amanar talisa b'Shabbos chayev chatos. One who shakes his talis on Shabbos is liable for a chatos offering, meaning it is one of the 39 malachas. He transgresses a biblical prohibition. What is the definition and meaning of shaking the talis? So we have here a major machlekes in the Rishonim. Some Rishonim understand the Gemara to be referring to, Ravuna to be referring to, shaking a garment, a talis, off from rain drops that have fallen on top of it, and limit it to that case specifically. However, dust that is on your garment may be brushed off. There is no prohibition to do so on Shabbos. So learns Taisvis there in the Gemara. However, Rashi explains that it refers even to shaking off dust. So some Rishonim hold that shaking off dust from a talis is considered the laundering prohibition. You just cleaned your garment, you transgressed the Isser of Melabin, biblically, while others hold it's completely permitted. So how do we rule? So before we give the final arbitration in the Paiskin, we must first introduce and preface that even according to Rashi, who is stringent and learns that the Gemara prohibits biblically shaking off dust from a garment, it's limited to a specific scenario. As the Gemara continues and says, this prohibition only is applicable to a new garment, not an old one. Furthermore, it only is relevant to a black garment. However, to a white or red garment, it does not apply. Furthermore, it only applies to a garment that you are particular on its cleanliness. So 3 conditions are recorded in the Gemara: must be new, black, and you're particular on it, in order for, even according to Rashi, who's stringent, for there to be a prohibition. Now let us approach what the Paiskim record. So in the Shulchanaruch, chapter 302, when it deals with the Isser of laundering on Shabbos, after it discusses the prohibition of shaking these type of clothing from water they got on them, and then discusses what about shaking off dust or dirt, which is our case of question. The Mechaber there in chapter 302, halacha 1, rules like Tosfos, the lenient opinion, as also rules the Rosh and the Ran, that there is absolutely no laundering prohibition at all involved in shaking a garment off from its dust, or brushing the dust off of it. Doing so is not similar to laundering. However, the Ramah there in that sif brings the opinion of Rashi, as rule many other Rishonim, the Shibuli Haleket, the Sefer HaTruma, the Ozarua, the Smaganim, and Beinu Chananel, and so is recorded in the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch in 302, halacha 3, that some Paiskim rule it's biblically forbidden to shake off earth or dust from a new black colored garment that one is particular not to wear while dirty. And as Exaisa Shulchan points out, this prohibition applies even if you're using simply your hand to brush off the dust, nothing more. Not a brush, just your hands. It's still usher, not Torah. Now, what is their final arbitration? They simply bring the second opinion. The Ramah, the Alter Rebbe, the Paiskim arbitrate that it's proper to suspect for their opinion, for the opinion of Rashi and all those Rishonim, that one should not brush dust off a new black garment that one is particular on, that it should be clean. And even though, as we already stated, the Mechaber negates this opinion, the Ben Ishchai, Kaf HaChaim, or Litzion all conclude that the Sephardi custom is to be machmir, just like Ashkenazim, and thus all Klal Yisrael are initially avoid cleaning dust off the above-mentioned garments. However, garments that are old or not black of color, or one is not particular to avoid wearing while dirty, are not a problem according to any opinion and may be brushed off from their dust. Nonetheless, regarding the definition of new versus old, the Alter Rebbe states in the Shulchanaruchharav, as well as brought other achreinim, that if it still appears new, even if you didn't buy it yesterday and it went through the laundry many times, the new appearance makes it halachically still be considered new, and it would be applicable to the restriction we mentioned against brushing off from its dust. Based on this, the Mishnah Berurah records in Bir Halacha the opinion of the Aris Dvash, Rebbeinu and Eibeshitz, that it's proper to be stringent to avoid brushing off dust from all black clothing, even if they are not new anymore, because we're not expert in defining what's new and what's old. Practically, the Mishnah Berurah concludes that one who is stringent is blessed, but one who is lenient has upon what to rely, although he should try to brush off the dust from this old black clothing with a shinoi. In all cases that we permit brushing off the dust from the clothing, one should do so with his hands and should avoid using a brush, as even though from the letter of the law a brush may be used lightly to brush off the dust, practically the custom is not to use a brush, as recorded in the Achreinim. Likewise, in all cases, one should only lightly brush or shake off the dust from the clothing, even if the clothing is colored and is not new and one is not particular, as when one does so very, very strongly, the Bir Halacha learns, based on another ruling in the Shulchan Aruch, that it may be considered like laundering by all types of clothing when you remove it using force. Thus, the brushing should only be done lightly with one's hand and not very forcefully or shaking forcefully. Based on all this, let's now summarize this halacha l'maisa. I'm walking on the street, I notice dust on my garment. May I shake it off? May I brush it off? Answer: if the garment isn't black, not a problem. If the garment is black, such as black pants, a black kapata, a black skirt, one should avoid brushing off the dust. However, if the kapata or pants or skirt is no longer new and doesn't look new, or one doesn't really care so much about the dust, then one may be lenient, and those who are lenient have upon whom to rely. In all cases, one should only brush it off lightly and not with a lot of force. One more case example, one brushed dust off his black hat on Shabbos. As we already stated, some are accustomed to be stringent. In all cases, however, min adin, if the hat no longer looks new or one is not so particular against wearing it with the dust, then one may lightly brush the dust off.
Thank you for listening to Shulchanaruchharav.com. Our free services of making Torah knowledge available to the public depends on donors like you. Please help us continue our work through making even a small contribution at Shulchanaruchharav.com under the Daily Halacha Dedication section or in the subscription page. Also, check out our online courses and many sefarim available for purchase that will both enhance your Torah knowledge and help support our work.